This podcast is made possible by the listener members of Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's September 30th, 2024. On this day in 1987, former Tennessee Governor Ray Blanton petitioned the court to have his voting rights restored. You see, not too long after leaving office, Blanton was convicted on felony fraud, conspiracy, and extortion charges. The thing is, the wrongdoing that had landed him in prison wasn't even the most notorious thing Blanton was known for. He served time for illegally selling liquor licenses and a kickback scheme, because that's what prosecutors could prove to the point of obtaining a conviction. It's also widely understood that he sold pardons. A lot of pardons. In fact, his successor, Lamar Alexander, was secretly sworn in 3 days early in 1979 to prevent Blanton from signing a huge stack of last-minute pardons. And that cash or clemency scheme may have even included a murder for hire. Just a couple of years ago, Chattanooga prosecutors announced they'd made inroads on a cold case that suggested Blanton's office helped pay for a hit on a convicted bank robber who'd agreed to share what he knew about the pardons with the FBI. In 2021, a grand jury determined there was enough evidence for a murder indictment, except the accused killer had long since died, and for that matter, so had Governor Blanton. We remember Blanton's time in office for its corruption and scandal. But there were good things, too. He created the nation's first-ever Department of Tourism. He successfully courted major investments in the state by foreign-owned companies. He made changes to the state employees' retirement system that made it one of the most stable and financially sound in the nation. He championed programs that improved equitable treatment of women and black folks. I point these things out not to say that we should forget about Blanton's wrongdoing. Not at all. But he is a good reminder that people are complicated. It's tempting not to believe information that says a person did bad when we know for a fact that they've done work in another area that we really appreciate and value. The same person who does something great can also break the law. Good deeds and corruption can coexist in one person. Two things can be true at the same time. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. Last week, the Tennessee Comptroller's Office released the long-expected report of the state's investigation into Nashville District Attorney Glenn Funk. News Channel 5 has had the inside scoop on this since the probe began, so thanks to their reports, the findings of the Comptroller's report weren't entirely a surprise. But it's one thing to have the sources suggest what's going on. It's another thing to see the investigators' findings in black and white. According to the Comptroller's Office, Glenn Funk has been recording defense attorneys and his own staff using a surveillance system since 2020. That includes recording devices in the evidence viewing room where criminal defense attorneys often discuss confidential information. What's more, the report says those recordings have been available to prosecutors handling those criminal cases. The DA doesn't deny the surveillance. Funk says it was okay because, in his opinion, it's unreasonable to expect privacy in the DA's office. The Tennessee Comptroller's Office disagrees. It's their conclusion that the practice is against state and federal law, violation of attorney-client privilege, encroaching on people's Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate themselves in a crime. The report also found evidence that employees felt pressured to work on Funk's re-election campaign. According to the report, at least some of that work was done using government resources. There was also pressure to make cash donations to the campaign. One employee says she was reassigned and surveilled after one of her family members supported another candidate for the position in 2022. This has to feel like sweet victory to some in the halls of state government. Funk has been a thorn in the side of many lawmakers because he's been very vocal about his unwillingness to prosecute new state laws that he considers an overreach or not in the interest of the public good. He's made that call about the state's abortion ban, low-level marijuana cases, and a law that said businesses had to install special signage if they let trans people use the bathroom of their choice. These findings of extensive surveillance in the DA's office potentially open the door for the state to bring the hammer down on Funk. But remember how Ray Blanton was convicted on a liquor license scheme, not the much more serious cash for clemency one? In his case, prosecutors could gather enough hard evidence to charge some of Blanton's co-conspirators, but they couldn't prove that the money got to him. There's a difference between feeling really confident that you know a thing is true and actually being able to go to court and proving that thing beyond a reasonable doubt. They didn't have a watertight case. Tennessee's Attorney General is essentially saying the same thing now about Funk. WPLN obtained a letter the AG sent to the DA that basically says, I know you crossed a lot of lines, and I believe you broke the law, but I'm not going to prosecute because I can't show for certain that you won cases because you used the surveillance recordings. But the case can still be sent to the state's Board of Professional Responsibility, which has the power to discipline attorneys. The head of the public defender's office issued a statement saying the findings suggest Funk's office engaged in ethical misconduct. She's asking him to disclose a full list of cases in which surveillance recordings were made. And the comptroller says there's a better option, in his view, than the AG's office heading up a criminal case against Funk. Comptroller Jason Mumpower says this situation calls for a special prosecutor. The lieutenant governor agrees and says that would open the door to also taking a close look at the DA's office in Memphis, which, of course, is the other city where folks aren't so interested in prosecuting certain state laws. In just a few minutes, we'll go deep on the state of our music scene here in Nashville. That's coming up after the newscast.
On This is Nashville, we're taking a journey into the identity of this place we call home. The old and the new, the glitzy and the gritty, the monumental and the human. What makes Nashville tick? What makes it unique? And where are we headed as a city? We're going deeper on the day's news, bringing you dynamic conversations and taking you with us out into the community. Join us weekdays at noon. This is Nashville.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. The national death toll from Hurricane Helene has continued to rise, reaching near 100 as of this morning. Tennessee officials have confirmed 2 deaths from the storm, one in Unicoi County and one in Johnson City. Yesterday, officials said that 153 people were missing in East Tennessee. Roads, homes, and public infrastructure were damaged across the area. Multiple dams received record levels of water, including at the Tennessee Valley Authority's Douglas and Nolichucky dams. Fear of catastrophic failure at the Waterville Dam in North Carolina, just across the state line, prompted evacuations in Newport. Kendall Ball, a cafe owner in Newport, told the Associated Press that he was trying to salvage items when he got a warning of a dam failure.
As soon as we got the word that we had to leave immediately because of a breach of a dam, we got out of here, and then within like 20 minutes, the power was gone.
Water and sewage infrastructure were also impacted across the area. Water utilities in Carter, Koch, Johnson, and Unicoi counties all had boil water advisories on Sunday. The plant that provides drinking water to Greene County had a destroyed water intake pump on Saturday. The Tennessee Emergency Management Agency said yesterday that another 14 water utilities in the area reported having issues. Governor Bill Lee declared a state of emergency on Friday, and President Biden approved a federal disaster declaration for the state on Saturday. Former Tennessee Governor Winfield Dunn died Saturday at the age of 97. Dunn became the state's first Republican governor in 50 years in 1971, serving for 1 term. He created the Department of Economic and Community Development while in office and also signed the Natural Area Preservation Act. That law made legal protections for areas like Radnor Lake and Fall Creek Falls and covers more than 100,000 acres today. Dunn also established a statewide kindergarten system. Nashville's mayor says he doesn't know what's next for the city's district attorney. Last week, a state investigation revealed that the DA has been secretly recording defense attorneys, as well as its own staff, through a surveillance system. Criminal defense attorneys often discuss private information within the DA's evidence viewing room, and the city's chief public defender has stated that the report's findings greatly erode trust in the legal system.
I'm not sure where this goes from here. I do think, to the public defender's point, we are always looking to try to build trust, and we're going to have to work with our criminal legal professionals on how we do that from this point.
Though the comptroller's office says the surveillance practice is against state and federal law, Tennessee's attorney general has said he will not prosecute DA Glenn Funk. Funk maintains there's no expectation of privacy within the office. After school on National United Against Hate Day of Action, kids at the Z. Alexander Luby Community Center in Nashville got a special treat. WPLN Power and Equity reporter Miriam was there and has this postcard.
The kids got to try their hand at hockey, basketball, and tag with 3 of Nashville's own mascots from
the Predators, the Titans, and a soccer team.
Soccer team, have you been to a game?
That would be Nashville SC player Haney Mukhtar.
No, but I watched it.
No?
Councilmember Zulfat Suwara invited Mukhtar to come out to volunteer with the kids.
I'm trying to do my part. I think it's very important to help, especially our community, and there's still hate out there, and we're trying to fight it, and I think it's a great thing what they're doing.
Councilmember Suwara says she wants the kids to feel supported after neo-Nazis harassed black children on Broadway earlier this year.
When you get attacked because of who you are, it affects you psychologically. It cripples you.
State Representative Afton Bain also helped organize this day for the kids.
They don't know why this is taking place, but
yeah.
I think as Zulfat said, we really tried to create entry points for anyone in Nashville and can continue organizing and building the coalition necessary to fight extremism, because they will be back, and what we build in between will matter.
Hello.
Hi. Are you having fun?
Yes, that's what it's about. That is what it's about.
Out on the basketball court, there is some yelling and tail pulling when the mascots turn their backs. But for the kids at the Luby Community Center, that kind of hate feels far away. Mariana Bacallao, WPLN News.
The family of a 10-year-old boy who died in a jet ski accident this summer is suing the Boy Scouts of America. The boy was riding a jet ski piloted by a camp counselor which hit another jet ski, also with a camper and counselor on board. News Channel 5 reports that the lawsuit alleges the counselors drove the jet skis recklessly, deliberately turning at high speeds and jumping over wakes to try to make campers fall into the water. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Nashville Public Radio's Julie Height and Justin Barney sat down to chat about 2 key surveys that show what's happening in Nashville's music scene. And we get to listen in.
Senior music writer Julie Height here, longtime chronicler of Nashville music making. Our understanding of Nashville's musical identity is shaped by everything from how it's promoted to the world as the country music capital to how city natives critique that rep in their songs.
When they choose the interest of tourists and hillbillies downtown feel like Disney World to them, but to us it's just reminders of the ways we can't get in.
But since the music ecosystem has been shaken up in recent years by skyrocketing development, the pandemic, the 2020 tornadoes, and evolving income sources, concrete data was called for. This year, not one but 2 comprehensive surveys, the Nashville Independent Venue Study and the new Greater Nashville Music Census, have spelled out how things really are for the city's music professionals. I talked through the findings of this latest census with my colleague, WNXP music reporter Justin Barney.
Justin, you have observed multiple cities with music communities. I'm interested in your fresh perspective on Nashville as someone who's only been here a couple of years. What stood out to you from the Greater Nashville Music Census?
Well, I think that a thing that we all know that the numbers show is that Music City is, in fact, Music City. We put on 26,000 shows a year, and it was really cool because I could compare data with other cities of similar sizes. And so, like, Columbus isn't all that different from us, and they put on 6,000 shows a year.
Significantly different.
5 times as many shows happen in Nashville, and those people who are putting on shows, who are making shows, are making more money than any other city that we looked at. For most other cities, like a city like Greensboro, North Carolina, those musicians are making not a wage you can live on. More people work in the music industry in this city than any other city that was surveyed. So this really is a place where the music industry is strong in comparative to anywhere else. It was interesting that 55%, a majority of people who work in the music industry who filled out this survey were women, which was unlike any other city. Julie, you have been here a little bit longer than me.
True.
What did you see in this survey in terms of change?
I've observed the branding side of Nashville as Music City. There's a breadth implied in that, but it has not always been taken to the extent of actually studying the true variety, what's actually present here in music communities in Nashville. And in this census, I mean, they really did look at, among the 4,000 plus respondents, the racial breakdown. And when it came to white respondents, they represented more than the percentage of the population of the Nashville area that is white. But the respondents who were Hispanic and who were Black and said that they work in the music industry represented lower percentages of the population that are actually present here in the Nashville area. To see that identified as a reality that should be addressed, that is a relatively new thing. There was also analysis of the genre breakdown. When you add up the respondents who say they work in country and roots and rock music, that was 56%. You know, a lot of other genres like hip hop and R&B, those were tiny, tiny, tiny fractions. So seeing that actually spelled out, that is a new thing. And related to that, because this is also a demographic issue, it has a lot to do with things like gentrification, is the concerns over rising costs of living in Nashville. And a lot of the respondents were saying that they cannot afford to live in Davidson County. That is also a reality that was not as in our faces 20 years ago. But when you looked at the census, what stood out to you in terms of solutions that people were clamoring for immediately?
A solution to parking. Parking is an issue. We know it.
Yeah.
You know it.
That's
true. I know it. We've got the
it.
tickets to prove it. And parking is, we were shown in these numbers that it's the biggest issue for musicians interacting with something that the government could fix in any way. It's costing musicians a lot to play because of parking. And that was something that we saw across the board in other cities.
Right.
Like, it was in other places. That was significant because the people who make up this survey, they said that data is the language of policy. And what they want to do with this data is then shape policy at a national level, at a local level, at a state level in a way that's kinder to musicians.
Yeah. This resonates with the independent music venue study that came out a little bit earlier this year. Another resource alongside this one. There was great awareness in that study as well as this one that the city has prioritized visitors, tourists, doing things to beckon them and make it a great place for them, maybe more so than for the people who actually live and work and make music here. I'm sensing a great deal of impatience for change to that reality.
And hopefully in doing surveys like this, we get the data that changes the policy.
Thanks for listening to the Nash Villager podcast. We take this look at Nashville news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app. Also, tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It would really help get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one. And we'll catch back up tomorrow.